Hello and welcome to 100 Yards Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host, Logan Landers, and joining me to talk about the 2021 team preview for the Michigan Wolverines is my co-host for the Unscripted Sports Podcast, Jay McLovin. What's up, Jay?
Hey, it's nice to be here and talk some Michigan Wolverine football. So whenever you're ready, I'm ready to dive in and get this bad boy cranking.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a good show as always. And, of course, before we get started, if you guys enjoyed this content here this evening, thank you guys so much for tuning in, first and foremost, whether you're watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, or if you're listening to our podcast, we're available pretty much everywhere if you haven't listened to us already, like Spotify, Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Audible, Stitcher, you name it. We are over there uploading daily episodes, whether it be team previews like the Michigan Wolverines, like right now, great Legends interviews with guys who have won Super Bowls, NCAA titles, former first-round draft picks, you name it. We have great interviews as well. Also, if you're a fan of history, our guy, Mr. Football Vincent Turner, the football encyclopedia, as we all like to call him, uploads weekly history specials with guys who he reflects on guys who had tremendous college careers, NFL careers. So please go check that out over there as well. And just thank you so much for tuning in and watching and listening to our program each and every week. It means the world to us. So, Jay, let's talk about the Michigan Wolverines led by, of course, Coach Harbaugh. What do you think about their 2021 season after, I would say, a little bit of a letdown in 2020?
Yeah. When I look at this team, they never really got into their rhythm. They had a hard time really getting it into their rhythm. They didn't have, a very dominant passing game per se. And I think, you got Cade McNamara, you got a few other guys that are going to be vying for that quarterback spot, because I don't really think, yes, they have a for the most part, a guy that I think that's going to wind up. I think Cade McNamara might actually take that role, but there's also a few other guys that I feel like are going to compete for that job. So I don't think that quarterback position is completely solidified yet. Defense wasn't too much better. They had the third worst in the Big Ten, so there's a lot to be admired with this team. Like we were talking about earlier with John Harbaugh, he's been here for a hot minute now, since 2015. And like you said, Logan, outside of that first year in 2015, they got to the one bowl game. The other ones they lost. And he just hasn't really done a whole lot. He's had a couple of 10-3 seasons, and he's also had a couple of really mediocre seasons. And I think he's coming off of a mediocre season. And I tell you, man, giving up 28 points a game, they got four starters that are expected back on that offense, or excuse me, on the O-line. So that if there's a bright spot, is that at least they'll have some of their start. Most of their starters should be back on the O-line, and that should give them a little bit of continuity along the offensive line. But that's really about the biggest positive I can truly find on this team, Logan, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, Michigan's kind of been a weird mystery for me, really ever since Harbaugh's taken over. Because like you mentioned, in 2015, he had a good season. They got a bowl win. And you're like, all right, first year, good, great start. Let's see how they can build on it. And they've had good records, except for 2020, since then, pretty much. A couple 10-win seasons, an 8 or 9-win season here and there. But the big thing, though, Jay, is they're 1-4 in bowl games under Coach Harbaugh. And for Michigan, who's always going to be ranked pretty high, just with the amount of recruits, with everything else that they've done for this, very historic and rich program, it's kind of you feel like they just kind of let you down each and every year. That they always strive for greatness in the regular season, pretty much. They do fine. But then once the lights get brighter and, the ball gets a little bit heavier in those bowl games, they just kind of crumble and fall apart. And that's kind of been, I think, for me, Coach Harbaugh's one kind of big factor and one criticism is he able to win the big games? And, coming over from the NFL all those years ago and now going into college, people thought he was going to just absolutely dominate. Let's not forget Michigan. People were expecting them to maybe get a national title under Coach Harbaugh. And now we're looking at them as a team who came off of a rough 2020 schedule. Their schedule in 2021 looks a little bit better. I expect them to definitely improve. But for a team whose offense and defense just never really got going last year, I do expect them to take a big step forward and to turn the other cheek and get a little bit better. I'm with you, Jay. I think Cade McNamara is going to start pretty good. But let's not forget you have J.J. McCarthy, who's a 5-star recruit, breathing down his neck. So you are going to have that QB controversy there. We'll see who's going to be able to be the most consistent, because that's, I think, the big key and the big word I have underlined is consistency for this Wolverines program. Is can they do it week in and week out? I mean, they lost a few guys on the offense side of the ball. Their defense was a little bit, they gave up, like you said, 28 points a game pretty much. That's right. You got to improve on that as a team with these, highly rated recruits. This is a team with, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star recruits. This isn't a smaller program. You're getting some of the best talent throughout the country. And in 5-6 years since Coach Harbaugh's been here, it just seems that they haven't been able to get it going, that they always go, 2 steps forwards, 3 steps back each and every.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think for me, it's just consistency on each side of the ball. I can talk about stats, I can talk about players, but for just the overall past few years, I just need to see Michigan be consistent this year. So, Jay, I'm going to turn it back over to you. What do you think about this team? I know you mentioned some of the offense and the defense, but do you have any other thoughts on this team before we go into their schedule?
Yeah, like I was saying, I look at they have some pretty good quarterbacks. They got, McNamara, who 61% of his passes were completed for 425 yards and 5 touchdowns. But then they also have Alan Bowman, a transfer out of Texas Tech, who got him 67% on the completion, 5,000 yards, 33 touchdowns. The bid on him is, can he stay healthy? Can Bowman stay healthy? That's what everybody's wondering, because he hasn't always stayed and always has never been in the best shape. So you got McNamara, Bowman. They're going to duke it out for the quarterback position. I think one of them will give you a halfway decent quarterback spot. So I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. My issue is on defense, where they gave up 434 yards and 35 points a game. They're not very disruptive up front. They had 9 sacks, I think it was, in 6 games. They're doing a 3-4 defense. The pass rush has to come from the linebackers now. And John Ross, he had 53 stops last season, so he did pretty well. So, yeah, we got Michael Barrett. Can he become the pass rush specialist? He had, 44 tackles. I believe it was third in the team with 44 tackles last year. Can he take on that role as pass rusher? There's a lot of question marks on that defense. Secondary as well needs to step up. So, I tell you, man, I think that this is going to be a middle-of-the-road team. I don't know if they'll necessarily be like a losing record or a winning record. They could bounce back, and they could bounce and just go even. You know what I mean? Or 7-6, 6-7. I don't know. Maybe somewhere in that neighborhood. You got the offense that I look for on the wide receivers was Ronnie Bell, which, by the way, they have 3 or 4 of their wideouts coming back, so that's actually another positive. And he's an explosive playmaker. With 82 grabs, 1,300 yards. So the guy does quite well. The best defensive player that I got over there is that linebacker in Josh Ross. He's the glue in the middle of that defense, and he holds up. Can he hold up against the run because of his size, and can he get behind the line of scrimmage is the question. So those are some big things that we need to look out for. But I think this is going to be maybe a 4 or 5 loss team. Logan,
okay. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, Jay, is pretty much the whole coaching staff has been retooled. They brought in a lot of new guys, and I think the big key for me this year is how is the brand new defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, who's coming over from the Ravens, who's been there for quite a few years, how is he going to do going to the college level now and helping out Coach Harbaugh? Is he going to thrive? Because we've seen that, the Ravens have had always a very good defense. Coach McDonald's done a very good job. Can it translate to the NCAA now? It remains to be seen. But I think for me, this is definitely a team that has more questions than answers coming into this year. Like you said, that I don't expect them to, beat the entire, go through their schedule and win by 20 points or nothing like that. And I think, honestly, Jay, I know Coach Harbaugh, he signed an extension somewhat recently, but I think that if they don't get to a bowl game, if they don't win that bowl game, especially, that heat might be a little bit hotter there for Coach Harbaugh in the near future in that hot seat. So I think that could definitely be coming into play. But let's talk about the schedule they have in 2021 because they have a few tough challenges, no doubt. They play Ohio State, of course, Penn State. I see Indiana. So who are some of the other teams that you have penciled in that you think could give Michigan a run for their money and potentially beat them this year?
Yeah, some of the ones I thought that looked pretty good to me was the Washington game, the Wisconsin game, Northwestern looked pretty decent, Indiana, and obviously Ohio is what I got on there. I really think I want to say this is going to be a bounce back year for them. I'm just not 100% sold on the defense as I am. I think the offense is going to be okay, but the defense is where I think they're going to struggle the most. And I don't know if their offense can generate enough points to overcome what that defense is going to give up. So at the same time, I think 5 losses, I think, is going to be where they are. Maybe 8-5, Logan.
Yeah, I think that's a good good way there. 8-9 wins maybe. I don't think they're going to quite get to double digits, just because there's a lot of question marks around their team, both on offense and defense. You get a brand new coordinator. We've seen either a new guy comes in, new scheme, whether it could help this Michigan Wolverines defense be top 5 in the nation, or they could take a very steep step back. You just don't know. But I do like that they have Aiden Hutchinson coming back, their big defensive end. A lot of people thought that he was going to go to the 2021 NFL draft. He decided to stay and come back for his senior season, so he's going to get one more crack at getting the potential bowl win or title win in Ann Arbor. So that is a big key for them. I expect Mike McDonald to be a better voice for the defense, and I expect the defense not take a major step, but definitely improve, I think. Like I said, they did lose a few guys, and I want to see what that offense can do. Can the offense be consistent? Can the defense be consistent? It remains to be seen. But do you have any final thoughts on this team before we wrap up here today?
Yeah, as always, like I said, they converted less than 40% of their third downs. So they're obviously like every other team that we've kind of been talking about. Third downs is always an issue, and especially with the teams that have the lesser proven team or the lesser proven teams struggle with it. So that's why you hear that a lot. They because third downs is a big thing, and when you're converting less than 40% of it, then that's a big issue. The key on the defense is just the opposite. They got to get more third down stops. They don't have a pass rush. They can't stop the run. So you need to get third down conversions on offense, and you need to hold up on third down on defense if this team's going to go anywhere this year.
Yeah, we'll see if they can improve on that. This isn't a team that's down in the dumps by any means necessary. They had a rough 2020. They've had good seasons, but I think that, like I mentioned earlier, they just kind of failed to live up to the high expectations that Coach Harbaugh kind of brought to this program. And I expect them to have a good year. I expect them to be in a bowl game at the end of the year. Like you said, Jay, I think anywhere from 7 to 9 wins is a good range for me comfortably. Maybe 10, you never know. But I want them to get into a bowl game, and I need to see how they do there. Because if you're Coach Harbaugh, I don't think you can afford to go 1-5 in bowl games. I think you definitely, the next one you get into, you have to win, or else then all the fans and everyone who's already been criticizing him is already just going to get even more under his skin for not living up to the big expectations. But we'll see. This is a talented team. They're going to have they have new coaches coming in, more players, guys returning. So this is a solid team. We'll see how they could do this upcoming 2021 season, and I think they're going to have a good year. So if you guys have enjoyed this video here today, first off, thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you're watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, or live on Twitch, we upload daily episodes to our podcast as well, so please go check us out over there. Available on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Audible now with your Amazon account, or anywhere else you enjoy listening to your daily podcast habits. We upload daily episodes, like I mentioned, whether it's team previews, amazing legends interviews, or just if you're a fan of history, I highly suggest that you go and listen to our guy, Mr. Football, Vincent Turner's history specials that he uploads each and every week. Learn more about some of the greats, what they did in college, what they did throughout their NFL careers. It's always a great listen, so please go check that out as well. Well, for my guest today, the co-host for the Unscripted Sports Podcast with myself, our guy Frankie C, the lovely Melanie, and our guy Big Shot Rob Strike. It's been Jay McLovin, of course, familiar face on Wednesdays. Thank you so much, my man, for coming on and talking about the Michigan Wolverines with me today. I've been your host, Logan Landers. Guys, stay tuned because we got one more great team preview for you in just a second.